Joined today by New Hampshire Representative Ross Berry, Republican from Manchester. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So I caught wind of discussions around changing the New Hampshire statewide primary date on nhjournal.com article that we'll put in the episode description. It was titled, Could New Hampshire's Incumbent Protection Late Primaries Be Coming to an End? And it's a fascinating discussion. Everyone is so distracted by the presidential primary that the statewide primary, that's extremely important, especially this cycle with Sununu saying uncle and wanting to let someone else take the reins, just place it that way. There could be some huge impacts when it comes to it. So give me the quick elevator pitch. Why should New Hampshire change its primary date to June instead of its current September timeframe, in your opinion?
Yeah, so the expression I always use is New Hampshire is first and it's last. Our obviously our first in the nation presidential primary is famous, but we also have what is usually the last or second to last state primary in the country, and it is exactly what that article stated, which is it's an incumbent protection plan, and it's really great for people like me who are already in office. Not so great for those of us trying to challenge the big incumbents. So I think moving it back is very healthy. The thing that I remind is you can't have a actual general election in 45 days. And there's all sorts of nuanced reasons why. You will see the incumbent will agree to debates or limit debates before the opposition party has even put forward their nominee. So it really is like really kind of gross, this 45-day sprint. And it's really not, both candidates deserve the opportunity to be able to campaign to the general electorate, and the general electorate deserves to be able to hear from both candidates.
Yeah, honestly, to me, it seems to make a lot more sense for this time frame change. I've lived in New Hampshire for more than a decade. Change doesn't necessarily sound like a good idea 99% of the time. I lean libertarian. I say it's fine. No, just stop doing things. But there are chances like this where I'm really coming around to it. And a big thing for me with especially in the statewide races is people only have so much bandwidth. Like there's only so many candidates they can pay attention to, and if they're dealing with a primary that's contested where there's multiple people for the side they care about, or maybe they're an independent because it's New Hampshire. I mean, there's lots of independents that'll vote one way or another. To be able to have that focus, and it could really help change, like, hey, our federal delegation, our governor's office especially, a chance for for new blood to jump in.
Totally. And it's you can't run an actual effective campaign in that short time frame. And the thing is, there's different messaging in a primary than there is in a general. In a primary, you're talking about the kind of niche issues that appeal to a primary electorate that may not appeal to a general electorate. And both candidates should have the opportunity to make that pivot and make that pitch. And I really cannot describe just how encumbering it is as a challenger, because you are just so not on an even footing with your opponent, and you never will be on a perfectly even footing. Well, let's be honest, right? The incumbent will always have an advantage, but it doesn't need to be this gross, 45-degree uphill slog to try to out somebody who may not be doing what they're supposed to be doing or saying they're doing what they're saying.
A big question for me, and I'm curious if you've had a chance to consider this or if other people have brought it up, is the cost of elections, which obviously has gone up. Out of state money coming into New Hampshire elections, it's a unanimous thing across the country. New Hampshire's not unique in that way. Different lobbying groups and advocacy organizations jumping in. Just speaking for some specific people, like on the left, there's 603 Forward and various organizations like that. On the right, there's Americans for Prosperity. Full disclosure, I work with them. I'm a presenting sponsor on the show. Have you heard any arguments one way or another when it comes to the impact this could have with campaign finance?
Well, yeah, there is actually some kind of obscure stuff here. So, especially on the federal races, right? So, a lot of the federal money is from out of states. Both parties, by the way, a lot of money from out of states. The issue is for the non-incumbents, they don't get access to that pool of money that would be available to them until it's too late. And oftentimes, the national groups for the challenger do not want to enter a race that late because they look at poll numbers, and of course, the incumbent's going to poll ahead initially because it's just name recognition alone will carry them over. So it really doesn't give that they they have that campaign cash that they would have otherwise have access to. This held back from them as a challenger. They just can't. They're just not going to get access to it. And once again, it's not a fair fight. And politics will never be a fair fight. It will never be perfectly even keel. But we should strive to get it close to that, so that the actual ideas can be heard and voters. New Hampshire voters are very intelligent, and they usually make the right decision. Sometimes I disagree with the decisions that they make, and that's totally cool. But New Hampshire voters tend to kind of look at everybody and consider every candidate on the merits. We actually have one of the highest incidences of split ticket voting in the country. So they don't. Our voters do not go into the polls with a closed mind, but they should be able to hear from both sides.
Why June? I mean, middle of the it's. I went since middle. It's the beginning of the summer. I have a higher ed full-time job background, so that's the middle of the summer for my brains. It's early summer for the K through 12 education system. It seems. Is it just because of the amount of time before the general election would take place?
Yeah, so it's kind of an appropriate time for schools have just let out, right? So a lot of our voting locate this is where we get into the weeds. A
Yeah.
lot of our voting locations are schools, right? So it actually makes it a lot easier for a lot of our municipalities to use their preferred voting location, which is a school. The other thing is parents are still around, so big time. I'm a parent myself. I'm a big advocate for parents. I don't like August, which has been floated before, because when they look at the week in August, a lot of parents are out of town. It's the last week before school. I want parents having a say in this election. I want parents having a say in this primary. And, New Hampshire, the best time in New Hampshire is fall and summer. So, like people are here, right? If this was talking about like the winter, it'd be like, oh no, there's too many snowbirds, they're gone. But June, like it's beautiful, it's 80 degrees, people are here, they're doing things, and it makes it much easier to go and vote while they're here versus trying to find another time where they may be gone.
So how is it you think we can convince Governor Sununu to think this is a viable option? I mean, that's one of the big hurdles that's going on right now is he does not view it as something that should happen. And then, as we've already mentioned, this is his last several months in office right here. So who knows what would happen with the next slate of people in power? How do we get the kind of middle of the road Republicans on board?
So the governor is actually not the problem here. He vetoed August, which I totally understand and agree with. He's not, to my understanding, opposed to June. The issue is actually our body is very, I think, kind of small-minded on how they're viewing this. Their concern is, oh, well, in June, in the even year, we're still in session, we're still handling legislation. And my counterpoint to my colleagues who bring this up is we're talking about incumbents, right? Incumbents are rarely primaried. They are rarely primaried. And when they are, the success rate of those primaries is even lower. And I think there's something like in 2022, I want to say like four House members were primary, 4 out of 400 were primaried out. It's a very small number. So and the reality is if you're doing what you've said you've been doing, you don't need to be worried about a primary, right? The people that get primaried out are the ones who run on one thing and then do another. And that being in September is not going to save them versus it being in June. So they've already taken their bad votes by June. And I don't think, for a lot of these seats, I don't think it's actually fair to say, oh, we can't walk and chew gum at the same time, right? So, I don't put a lot of stock in that. I appreciate the argument, but I just don't put a lot of stock in it because the numbers just bluntly don't bear it out.
We're also not talking necessarily like the president. Like this, we're not talking about the presidential primary where we have this huge time frame where they don't have the time to be able to work around everything. So we're talking statewide. Like if you're getting primaried, like you just said, I think it's a very important thing to reinforce. If you're getting primaried in your district, you got problems going on, and at this point, they would have seen how you voted through the winter term. They've seen the way you're voting. It's obviously not going the way they want, and they're going to make a change. Like this is the voice of the people. It'll be fresh in their memories, if anything, where they're going to be able to say, hey, things are not going the way we expected for this person we voted for.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's kind of my point is Like for me, I wouldn't worry about a primary. No one's going to run to my right. Like I'm not worried about it. In fact, I welcome it if they want to try. But if you're not doing your job, then yeah, you should be worried. But June ain't going to save you. September ain't going to save you. You should be voting the way you told your constituents you were going to vote from the beginning. And that's just how politics works. And that's one of the, you know, vital and integral parts of the New Hampshire system is basically every office is up every 2 years. So we have this constant refreshing of politicians. And I actually think it's very healthy. We're the only state, to my knowledge, that has the 2 year term for governor. I would never change that. I believe that that office should be up. I think every state should take a look at that. And I had somebody bring that up to me at one point. They said, well, it's hard to get things done as governor if you only have 2 years. It's like, well, that's the point. Like, it should be hard to get things done. Politics is not a machine that's designed to move quickly. In fact, it's designed to fail. It's designed to have things not work, because the only things you should be able to get done are the things that really matter. So, I think that's a very healthy system, and I just don't think having this 45-day window is a healthy system, because it's the other thing that I would point out is when it comes to absentee ballots, right? So absentee ballots usually go out about 15 days after our primary. So you're talking about voters at that point have had like 15 days to figure out who the general election candidate is, and they're already casting votes. So, that's not right. The WMUR debate is the most watched debate in the state. That happens a week before the primary, so you haven't even seen the debate. I actually imagine if we had a longer primary, if we moved that primary back and had a longer general election window, I think we would see debates farther set back to allow voters to make more informed decisions, because when you get to that last week of the election, people are already kind of hardened into where they're voting. And they in New Hampshire, they start making that decision about 30 days out. So you're really talking about, if you want to actually dive into it, when you talk about a 45-day window primary, you're actually talking about 15 days of hard campaigning. And it's really hard for a candidate to come off of a contentious primary and then wake up the next morning and immediately they have 15 days to make their pitch.
New Hampshire Representative Ross Berry, thanks so much for joining me today. If people want to follow what's going on with this bill and everything else you're doing, what should they do?
Always pay attention to the state house. We've got two. That's all in the Senate right now. So nothing. I have done my part. It's all in the Senate, and I look forward to them coming over. I don't know which bill they'll hijack over. I don't pay attention to the beautiful people on the other side of the wall. I'm just one of 400 over here plowing away.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time to join me this middle of this very busy cycle. We're recording this Thursday night. It's coming out Friday morning. So please get thanks for stepping away before you go. Take care of your young kid, and best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. This is the New England Take. Be sure to check out newenglandtake.com. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Check out our shorts. We've been posting the important clips and some other native clips that are specifically for shorts. So please be sure to check that out, as well as on Instagram. I've been posting all our shorts over there too. Newenglandtake.com. Talk to you soon.